So it's come to my attention on social media that certain Jews, maybe even Christians, believe that the narrative or the story part of the Torah wasn't originally part of the Torah, but that it was added later. And only the instructions are really the Torah that were given. And that's just not true, because when you study ancient Near Eastern treaties, you realize that the Sinai covenant and the Moab covenant, which is Deuteronomy, are written in the stylings of a suzerain-vassel treaty, which I'm going to go through those elements right now. The first 4 books of the Torah and Deuteronomy are fashioned as an ancient Near Eastern suzerain-vassal treaty. These were agreements between a powerful king, suzerain, and a lesser king, vassal. This structure suggests an ancient understanding of covenant relationships where God is seen as the suzerain and Israel as the vassal. So here are some of the key elements that you need to look for. A preamble, which is the section identifying the suzerain by name and titles, establishing their superior status, like for instance the 4-letter name of Hashem and his domain, which is creation. The second one is a historical prologue. This outlines the previous relationship between the suzerain and the vassal, highlighting the suzerain's benefits to the vassal, thereby emphasizing the vassal's obligation to submission and allegiance. So like when he created Adam, which led to Abraham, which led to Isaac and Jacob's seed, and how he delivered them from Egypt, those types of things. That is a historical prologue, and it's absolutely necessary for this treaty. Then you get into the stipulations, and the stipulations, the do's and the don'ts, these were obligations and requirements placed upon the vassal, which would be Israel. These generally included exclusive allegiance to the suzerain, prohibiting alliances with other powers, answering calls to alarms, and submitting controversies to the suzerain for judgment. Then you have the blessings and cursings section. This crucial section detailed the consequences of both obedience and disobedience. Blessings would follow faithfulness to the stipulations, while breaking the treaty would result in curses. The same applied to God's commandments and instructions. Then you had deposit and periodic reading. Copies of the treaties were deposited in temples of the respective gods and were to be read periodically to remind the vassal of their duties and the treaty's importance. For example, in Egypt, important documents confirmed by oath, such as international treaties, were deposited beneath the feet of the deity. Well, in the case of Israel, the ark is the footstool of God. You can see this in Psalm 132 and 1 Chronicles 28. So that is where Deuteronomy and any of their treaties would have been placed. Then you had the witness section. You have to have witnesses. So deities in the ancient Near East, deities that people believed in, were typically called upon to witness the treaty, lending it a sacred and binding quality, ensuring its solemnity and adherence through the threat of divine retribution. However, since God is the suzerain in the Torah, Hashem, other witnesses were used, e.g., heaven and earth, the Song of Moses, and the Torah scroll itself. Then you have a ratification ceremony. These treaties were often formalized through a ratification ceremony, which could involve oaths and animal sacrifices, further cementing the seriousness and binding nature of the agreement. In essence, the suzerain-vassal treaty served to formally define and govern the relationship between a dominant power and a subordinate one in the ancient Near East, establishing a framework of loyalty, protection, and obligation. So have no fear, believers in the Bible. What you see in the first 5 books of Moses is exactly what's supposed to be there, and that's exactly what was given to Moses. So you can see an example of this in Nehemiah or Nehemiah chapter 9, when Israel was trying to renew themselves to God. It says in chapter 9 that they wanted to assemble, which they did, and they started to fast, and they separated themselves from foreigners, and they were confessing their sins. And then it says they read the Torah for a quarter or a fourth part of the day, and afterwards for another fourth they sang praises to God with the Levites. And when they do the praises of God, they start saying stuff like this: you created the heavens and the earth. You took Abraham out of the Ur of the Chaldees. You delivered Israel out of Egypt. You split the Yam Suf, or the Red Sea. And I'm thinking, oh, that's exactly what you read in Genesis and the first part of Exodus. And where did they get this information? Why are they singing these particular praises? Because they just got done for a quarter part of the day reading the Torah, the book of the covenant. A covenant is a treaty, and a treaty has all those elements that we just talked about. A preamble and a historical prologue are a narrative, which is part of the treaty. I'm going to keep emphasizing that so you guys will know it, and won't have any more questions. But, study the ancient Near East, and it'll come to you. Shalom.